there's no such thing as talent. Talent is something that people have invented. All there is like passion and practice. And that's my story. I didn't realise that I was average when I started being a little artist. But I practiced. I had a passion for it, and I practiced, and I became good. So that's the first thing I'd say to a youngster would be, you know, keep practicing. Just don't worry about, am I talented? Do I have the skills? It's just practice and acquiring those skills. And if you enjoy that, then you'll only get better and you'll only get deeper into it. My name is Colin Procter. I was an art teacher for quite a long time. Took early retirement in order to really do art full time, hoping that I'd make a bit of a living out of it. So when I quit teaching, I thought I'll pick up where my artwork was previously. And that was kind of abstract work in the style of some of the New York painters of the 50s. So it was quite abstract. It bore resemblance to Mark Rothko and other painters, surrealists and abstract expressionists. I was doing that and finding that what I was doing didn't seem relevant to me at the time, or relevant to anything. It was just picking up a style I'd worked on years before. So I started working towards more realistic subject matter, and I picked up the theme of urban spaces because I'm always walking around towns and cities and finding them really kind of, well, that they boggle your mind with the atmosphere, the little places that you come across that can really inspire you. You look at something and the stains on walls, or the textures you see, or the way sunlight rakes across a surface. And I thought, there's my subject matter, that's what gets me interested. So I started doing a project based on that, based on urban spaces. And just to make it easier, I omitted people from the pictures, and suddenly the pictures looked like deserted townscapes, and it gave them even more atmosphere. So yeah, I spent a lot of time painting pictures of urban environments. I keep lots and lots of sketchbooks, and I'm always putting things into them. And they could be anything from a cartoon to a doodle to a little collage of different textures. And I've got pages after pages of these images. And eventually some of these begin to kind of, as I flick through the pages, I can see the connections between them. And sometimes that will transfer into an image which can then be developed and become a painting. So sketchbooks are very important to my workflow. But on the other hand, I can just work straight from photographs at times. So there was a series of mornings in about 2021 when they were very, very foggy in the winter of 2021. And I went out and I went for walks around Wellingborough, sometimes I went to Kettering, sometimes I went further afield. And I just photographed the town in fog and mist, and photographed all the kind of atmospheres that you get with that. And that really provided me with subject matter for lots and lots of my work, because they already had the feeling that I was kind of looking for in the work that I'd done previously. There was no one around because it was early morning. It was very, very spooky. The way the fog was, it enhanced the tones, so it makes everything just kind of, things are familiar, but because you can't see details, it's hard to judge distances, and they seem to be further away than they really are. So yeah, so using photographs and then working straight from them, or using my loads and loads of sketchbooks and making images come together from those sketchbooks. I get inspired by things I see around me. I mean, Pauline, my wife, gets really fed up with me just because if we go out walking somewhere, she knows at some point I'm going to stop and say, hang on a minute, love, I just want to take a picture of this. And it will be a piece of rusting wreckage in a hedge. We might have gone for a walk somewhere, or it'll be some shadows on something, or a bit of old wall that's kind of all fallen down and kind of mouldy and got textures on it. And I'll spend 5 minutes taking 20, 30 shots of this. So what inspires me is the stuff that I see around. That's what kind of, and that's, those pictures become doodles, or they inspire other bits of my work, and you know, sometimes they can just become paintings straight. If you're starting out as an artist, the first thing to do is the easiest technique that you can get your hands on. Now, for some people that might be to pick up a paintbrush and splotch it around. For me, it was to use a pencil and paper, and I spent most of my time, I mean, at one point I just drew endless superheroes, Batman, Spider-Man, the Hulk, all these superheroes. And by doing that, I picked up all sorts of things like human anatomy, proportions, how to show different limbs and poses in action. So just by doing what you enjoy most to begin with is going to teach you half the lessons that you need. So that's the first thing. And then, you know, hopefully if you're doing that, you're just going to develop your own interest. You're going to think, I like what I did there, but I want to do that better next time. I want to do this with it or whatever. And that's where what people call passion comes from, because suddenly you really have, you're not just thinking, oh, that was good, let's put it away. You're thinking about, that was good, now what I really want to do is this. So you're already thinking ahead, and you're already diving deeper into it, I suppose. It's something that I always actually fight against with my students. They'll say, yeah, so what's the meaning of this abstract thing here? And they'll be looking at, you know, a piece of contemporary art. And art doesn't have a message, because when you say message, it sounds like something that you can decode. You can say, oh yes, that red means this, and that streak across there means something else. And so I don't feel there is a message as such. What you have in your art is, what communicates in your art is stuff that communicates without words. So then it becomes hard to explain. What I mean by putting this blue next to this lavender on a picture I've got here is that it's that blue next to that lavender in the context of the rest of this image. That's a message. That's something that I feel, and something that is in that picture to communicate. And you can't say that another way, in the same words, in the same way that, you know, what does this piece of music mean? Sometimes there's an inspiration behind it, but the music means that bit, you know, it means those notes and those chords. And so on that level you can say, yes, my work doesn't carry any specific messages as such. It doesn't have an attitude or a program behind it or a philosophy. But having said that, there is the thought that maybe there is beauty in the most everyday of things, like a tumbled down building that is now used as a car park, or a couple of concrete water towers, or an old disused school. All of these things would be places that most people would probably walk by and not think twice about, but I kind of find them, those little hidden places or forgotten places, I find them I find them inspiring. I think they've got something that I value, so they become the subject of my work. There's always inspiration out there, but to make the next thing, you don't necessarily have to have something happen to you or something that you see or hear to make you make the next thing, because what generates the next thing is your own thought that you want to improve. That you might want to do the same thing again, but better. So then you find a vehicle to do that. You might find another image that's similar or very different, and find yourself doing the same thing but just slightly, well, in your hope that it's going to be a little bit better.